sermons come from.
Okay, so you want to know where sermons come from. Well, let me go ahead and just say this right off the bat. I bet if you got 10 pastors and said, hey, what is the process for a sermon from start to finish? I bet none of them would be exactly the same. So this is unique to me. This is kind of developed over the 12, 15 years of ministry that I have done in my life. So this is going to look unique to me. Now, there are 6 steps that I've identified that are kind of the way that sermons happen for me. The first one is actually where the sermon series comes from, and this is where the staff at the church, Antioch, we get together and we talk about, usually for about 6 months at a time, where are we going with the teaching of our church. So we're not really going to cover that in this video, so we'll talk about those 5 steps about the individual messages. Now, another thing I want to tell you about is one of the steps is not prayer. And that's not because prayer is not involved. That's because prayer is in every single step. There's not a step that is, and then I pray about it. No. I pray about it in every single step. I seek the Lord. I go through His Word. I pray at every single step. So just because there is not a step that is labeled prayer, that does not mean it has not been prayed over, not only by me, but by multiple people. So for me, the first step I like to call the percolation step. As soon as I know what a message is going to be about, as far as the broad idea or the biblical text, I make a note in my notes app in my phone, and I let those ideas percolate, okay? Kind of like a great cup of coffee. It is filtering through, and so sometimes this note, I'll know what a message is going to be months in advance, and I already will have the note ready to go. That way, as ideas come to me, as things happen and as God speaks, I write those down. Now, I'll go ahead and just tell you right now, for whatever reason, there are usually 2 times that I get more ideas and write them down in my notes app than any other times. One is while I'm in the shower, the other is while I'm cutting grass. Maybe it's because my mind is disengaged and I'm not actively thinking about other things, and so God is free to have those thoughts come into my mind. So I always keep my phone close because I never know when there is an idea. There have actually been multiple times where someone has come up, like in my family, I'm at my house, and they want to start talking to me. I was like, whoa, hold on, let me write this down. I need to put this in my phone because I want to capture those things, because I have a very, very short memory, so I write everything down. So that first step is the percolation step. That's where all of these ideas are captured in the notes app on my phone. The next step is the basic outline step. And this usually happens the week before the sermon is going to be preached. And this is where I start to take those ideas and I begin to give them structure. Now, for me, the outline that I generally follow with 95% of all the messages that I preach is this: introduction, tension, truth, application, landing. Those are the 5 things that I go through in every sermon, and that's kind of how I process through the outline of a message. Again, there are tons of ways of doing this, and a lot of people do it a different way. So this is not the way everyone does it. Matter of fact, I would say this might even be a minority way of doing it, but it's the way that I like it done. So here's what we mean by introduction. This is a time where me, as the one who is presenting the message, I am going to build common ground with the people who will be listening. So if it's people in my church, usually this takes a shorter amount of time because there's not a whole lot of common ground that needs to be built because we see each other every week. But this is where I set the stage for what I'm going to talk about. The next part is the tension. Now you might be like, what in the world is tension? Well, it's this. This is where I get a common emotion to bind us all together. Now, the reason why this is important is because if you're lecturing someone for like a college course, you don't need to build any kind of tension like, why should I keep listening? Well, there's going to be a test. That's why you need to keep listening. But if someone has just dragged you to church, or maybe your coffee hasn't kicked in yet, you need something that's going to keep you involved. And so what I like to do is I like to ask some sort of a question that's going to get people hooked in and listening all the way through to the end of the message. So this is a way that I ask a question, get people hooked in and wanting an answer. Jesus did this all the time to get people hooked in on what he was about to say. The next section is the truth section. This is the one that you probably think of instantly when you think of a sermon. This is where we actually get into the biblical text. Now, all of these sections are important, but they are not of the same length. Matter of fact, if a message is going to be 30 minutes long, you might have a 3-minute introduction, a 1-minute tension, and then your truth section, that is going to be the vast majority of your time. This is where, if we're going through a book of the Bible, this is where we look at that text. If we are looking at a topic, this is where we break down the various verses that we're pulling together to talk about something like love or patience or whatever it is. This is where we go through those scriptures and explain what they mean. Now, this is not to be confused with the application section. I like to keep those separate to where we break down the scripture in one part and then see how it applies to our life. An easy way to think of it is the application section asks this question: so what does this mean for me? The final section here is the landing section. This is where we bring everything to a nice close and we talk about a next step for everyone in the room. This is where the invitation happens. This is where the call to some sort of a commitment happens. This is where we say, okay, this is what you need to do right now. That is the landing section. Now I'm going to go and I'm going to finish that, and then I'm going to do the next thing, which I call the first pass. We'll talk about that in just a second. Okay, sermon is what I consider ready to go. I fleshed it out from the outline. That's what I call the first pass. Then I basically let half a day go by, let a whole day go by, just let some time go by so that I really kind of forget about everything that was there, come back at it with fresh eyes for the second pass where I really refine it and smooth it out. And I've got my notes ready to go. I've got my slides ready to go. I've got the presenter notes ready to go. Everything is ready to go just in time to get some grilling done tonight. I'll go over the message a few more times before bed, but we're ready to go for tomorrow morning. Okay, so it is Sunday night. The message has been given, and as you can see right here, I am working on editing the video. I had some video from this morning that I recorded after I got up. It was actually before my coffee, and the video was so bad. I was so out of it. It's not even in focus. I'll show you a little bit right here. Okay, so it is Sunday morning before the rest of my family's gotten up. I've had a shower, but not coffee yet. So this morning I got up, I reviewed the message, and let me tell you, I love preaching from an iPad. I've been doing it for years now, and I absolutely dig it. I would recommend it to anyone. One thing I like to do, especially because I wear glasses, is I use white words on a black background, so there's not a whole lot of reflection on my face, but I absolutely love it and would recommend anyone give it a shot. So the last step is looking over the message one more time right before I get on stage. This is something I really like to do, not only because it keeps it very fresh, especially the very first few things I'm going to say and how I'm going to close. Also, it kind of gives me some clarity after I talk to people that morning. I kind of get people's general sense of mood and how I should approach things. And so I always make a few notes about that right before I get on stage. So I think the message went really well. We wrapped up our mega series in Acts, and you can actually catch it online. I will link it in the description below if you want to check it out. And if you're curious of why in the world I'm carrying a baby Yoda off stage, you just have to watch the sermon to find out, okay? Like I said, linked in the comments below. Go check it out. I told you earlier in the video, I always go with an introduction, a tension, a truth, an application, and a landing. And for all of you nerds out there who want to know how long I spent in all of those sections, I'll put them right there for just a second for you to check out. But hey, that is how sermons are made. That's where they start, and this is how they end. This is the whole picture. Like I said, everyone does it differently, but this is my process. If you thought this behind the scenes video was pretty neat, go ahead and give it a like, share it, and be sure to subscribe so that you can catch the next one when it comes out on Tuesday. We will see you next time. Grace and peace.